Freedom! I'm Aaron Jack. Welcome to another exhilarating episode right here on the Freedom Tapestry Project. I'm Aaron Jack. I'm over at Aaron Jack Line Art. We're going to have Ben on here. We're going to have Francesca, who's an amazing painter. So get ready to hang out for a beautiful hour here on the Freedom Tapestry Project, or wherever you're watching later on. Hey,
what's up?
How you doing?
I'm well. I am on my final cup of coffee from the morning pot. So,
oh yeah, oh nice.
Getting that full caffeine going. It's 9:15. Getting ready for the day. Very excited about our Freedom Tapestry project today with Francesca, who just joined in. I see her popping up down in the chat.
Yeah, we're gonna be all over the world. We're in the East Coast, the West Coast of the U.S., and then we're gonna be off in Italy. We're just like bouncing around.
I have to say, that is. I was having a conversation yesterday. We've got a bunch of projects, with our company Skyview Way, and we were talking about this on two of our calls. We've got a couple of these cartoons we're in development on, and the thing being with obviously the pandemic and everybody having to literally use this kind of format for everything we do, not just go around the world and utilize it to connect people. It's become, a daily necessity for doing our work. It's really fascinating to think that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even, we wouldn't have really had those same abilities. And how would we have managed to cope with this kind of situation? I mean, it's one of those things that, I take it for granted, because yesterday I had a meeting at, and I was, one of many Zoom meetings I had to go to, so to speak. And I was doing some work down at my local coffee shop. And, I was like, okay, my meeting's coming up, pops up in the calendar. And it's like, well, let's jump over here to this area that's quiet in the, outside. Luckily, obviously LA, it's still relatively warm, and we can do all of our things outside and, mask up and all that stuff. And, I was able to have a wonderful meeting, muted myself so no one could hear the honking horns and motorcycles going by, and, jumped in when necessary. But I think it's really fascinating that we are able to be around the world so quickly and, just be able to have these kinds of meetings and conversations and create these communities. Like you were saying earlier, when we were talking, in the other video chat about how, you're interviewing these folks from MIT. And I mean, that's just fascinating. Meeting people that we otherwise never would meet, or potentially even have a reason to have I mean, we would have the reason to have a conversation, but we would never, how do we connect with them?
But it's also not only connecting, but now we're able to so easily connect in front of people and have an audience. Like, even if it's, 2, 3, even an audience of one, we're able to anywhere from 1 to 1,000 people, 15,000 people, whatever it is, we're able to see that conversation live across the world and be able to tap into it, just as we would with a TV station. It's like everybody has a chance to be their own TV station.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, to that point of Instagram Live, when we were just talking about, I mean, it hasn't existed for a very long time. And, look, we can hate on all the different things of Facebook and this and that. And, we all have the gripes, and I have, my gripes. And obviously raising a young child in this environment of technology, there are still a lot of, things we have to combat. I think it was our parents' generation was like, don't watch so much TV. Now it's like, don't be on the iPad for so long. But what's amazing and fascinating is that, the tools, I think the difference between TV was a very passive form of entertainment, of interaction. Yes, you could take in, content and be educated watching Nat Geo or whatever, documentaries on PBS. But now there's that interactive layer. And that ability for us, yes, there's a lot of bad content out there, a lot of white noise, a lot of stupid TikTok videos that get us nowhere and that bring us down, black holes that, spiral out of control.
Down the rabbit hole.
Oh my goodness, so many rabbit holes. But I think to that point, it's like how we are now able to connect with amazing artists, like Francesca in Italy. I mean, I have to give just a big shout out to Samia for doing such hard work for, I don't think she's going to join us today, but just doing such amazing hard work in really helping facilitate these artists. Yesterday she was saying she was looking through Behance and finding new artists and content. And it's like, it's empowering across the board, for all of us to be able to have this platform and like I said, when I was talking to Lena the other week, she was just like, wow, it's really amazing what you guys are doing with this platform. And, hopefully we'll be able to get her on one of these days. I know she's, busy, but it would be really wonderful to what we're building, just to elevate it to those next levels. And I think that is the goal of Freedom Tapestry, is to just keep elevating and keep building. So
take it to those next levels. I think there's so many interesting ways to take it to the next levels. I just had an amazing interview with Kate Enters from ArtCan.org.
Okay.
And it was amazing. She runs this group of like 200 artists in London, but they're actually like out of 26 countries, but mostly in London, and exhibit together and all of these things. And I was just like, oh, that's really, it's cool to be able to interact and learn more about all of these organizations so quickly. And then we're able to also share that information. I really enjoy that. It's not just like between two people. It's then now becomes shared information out there in the world. And I think that's so important, is that we're, everybody's able to do that. And it just takes a little bit of, effort to try to connect.
Yeah, and I think, even if one person comes out of that connection, out of that conversation, to be able to take that one little piece of information, and who knows what they're going to do with it. They may create the next amazing art community, or, a site or app or whatever it might be that gives that little seed. And I think, a lot of ways, if we look at the reason why we do things as just being seeders, then we'll always feel that we're creating good content. It's like, because I think so often it's like we're worried about like, well, what is the purpose? Why do we do this? Oh, it's not getting, we don't have 50,000 followers right now. We don't have, 10,000 viewers on, but that's not the purpose, And I think that ultimately purpose always drives by the fact that even if, the one tree in the forest that is heard, and that person goes and says, whatever it is, brings that fire back to the community, I think that is how it all has purpose and continues to be, seeding. And I was just really quickly, I was listening to this podcast. By the way, Philosophize This. I think it's one of the best podcasts. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this before. I listen to it every night on my nightly walks. It's about 30 minutes. I do about an hour of them, back to back. Just kind of almost subconsciously listening to all these different philosophers. It begins, the beginning of, philosophy, and it goes all the way to now. But just wrapping up with that, was listening to about the Renaissance and
What's it called?
Philosophize This. And
Okay.
I think it's Stephen West is the guy who does it. It's just one guy talking. He does a really great job of connecting philosophy into modern terminology, very, great ease of vernacular into, giving us a feeling of like, we're on this journey and able to digest amazing philosophers that otherwise, we wouldn't have exposure to. I mean, I've been literally buying just so many books, because of this podcast, ancient Chinese philosophies. I already read the Tao, what do you call it? The I Ching and, all that. But I think what's great about it is that it gives a lot of exposure to a lot of different philosophies in a very bite-sized kind of way. And last night's was on the Renaissance and how the Black Plague and the pandemic and all those kinds of things, really drove what the Renaissance became. And I think in a lot of ways, we're in a similar kind of expedited, we're coming through a lot of dark ages, a lot of ignorance, a lot of, all these kinds of bad ideas, so to speak, that are, pushing demagogues and just wrong things, anti-critical thinking. And I think that where we're going is in this direction. We're being forced through a pandemic to, oh, thank you, Brittany. I just saw it pop up about Werewolf by Night. But anyway, not to go off on a tangent, which I tend to, but I think it's really fascinating that we're being forced into these kind of new habits. And kind of wrapping up my side of the conversation with that, forcing into new habits, discovering new artists, discovering new ways to connect. And I think that's what's so amazing and fascinating with what we're doing here with Freedom Tapestry. And I'm just really, really proud of everything. So thank you, Aaron, for being the consummate amazing host every week. I'm going to go. I'm going to let Francesca jump on and kick it, and you guys can rock out.
Cool. Thanks, Ben.
Awesome. Later.
Till next week.
Till next week.
All right. Later tonight, we're going to probably have the Jam Nation on, so Ben can write about that in the comments below, and then we'll have Francesca on here. I'm Aaron Jack. You can check me out at Aaron Jack Line Art. So go follow. I've got more interviews every Tuesday. So, hey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Excellent. So tell us a little bit about, like, where are you? What are you up to? What's happening at this time?
Well, I'm from Italy. I live in Trieste, which is a city, it's not so far from Venice. So it's in the northeast of Italy. And I'm a part-time painter. Love this very much. So every time I can, I just jump on colors and try and do my stuff. This is basically the studio where I used to work, and not now actually, because I'm just in the process of moving to a new place, a new city, where I will have a bigger studio, which is the great part. And and so now I'm just full of boxes, actually. I can show you some,
Oh, yeah.
over there.
Wow. Look at those boxes. Boxes everywhere.
Yeah. Also because of the emergency, and in Italy they are closing region by regions in depending on the days. And so far I'm still allowed to move to this new place, which is in another region. But I'm not sure if in the next few days I will still be able to move. So we are trying to pack everything very, very quickly, and to be able to go there.
Wow.
It is,
wow.
a bit surreal, but well, it's life, so it's okay. Let's go with it.
Yeah, wow. How did you decide to make this move, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, it was mainly a choice that depended on my husband, so it's his fault. But because I love this city, it's a place I've not been born here, but I came here when I was in my 20s because I was studying psychology. I was doing here my PhD, and I fell in love with the city. And it has, the sea, it has the mountains, it has everything I love in terms of nature. So I love this place. But anyway, it's okay to move because, actually, Nicola, my husband, is my best friend. So wouldn't be, I mean, the city is good, it's important, but it's more important to be surrounded by good friends. And so better to stick with him. That's, and so we will move to another city, which is pretty close to here, basically. It's in Treviso, which is closer to Venice. It's one of his good points. So I will be able to visit that city much more. And so that's why we moved, basically. But apart from that, I also gained the biggest room in the new apartment for my studio. So I made a good bargain. Let's say that.
Wow. So that what got you doing the PhD? Like what was your PhD on, and how did that work out?
Well, it's a completely different matter. It's in brain sciences because when I was younger, I was very curious, always very curious about almost everything. And what really got me when I was young was psychology. And then I started to study psychology. Then I felt I was wrong in doing that. And then I met neuropsychology and all the, brain science areas that really amazed me, and they really stimulated my curiosity. And so I studied that area, that subjects, and ended up for many years working in neuroscience and doing this kind of studies until 2005, when all the grants and nice things ended. And I think incredible crossroads. You don't know anymore what to do, maybe. And I think I was too proud and too proud and too angry to keep working on that. And so I left for a while. Then I changed the field, which was good actually, because I started to work on sports psychology for many years. And then ended up that I needed to, to get money to pay the bills. And so I started to do also other things, much more related to marketing and, working in a company. And I did that for a few more years until I realized that I couldn't do that anymore, not at least for the whole day. And that's when, and that's when painting came back again, because it was with me all the time, actually. I mean, I was always drawing when I was a kid, on the desk at school, etc. Every day the cleaning lady had to, clean my mess and things. So, and I kept doing that, even, when when later on I did other things. Painting was always something that gave me a lot of, I wouldn't say happiness. I would say it was something that allowed me to feel into my skin. I felt good myself, not good. I mean, I wasn't happy, maybe I wasn't really thrilled, but it was me. It was me when I was painting. So after maybe this not very satisfying experience in terms of job, day job, I decided that I wanted to do that more. And so I quit my job, and after a while I decided to get that job again, because this passion, this hobby, this whatever it is, almost a profession now, it's also very, very expensive. And so I decided to do it as a part-time job. And this is how now I balance the two things. So part of my day is dedicated to pay the bills, and the rest of my day is dedicated to painting, unless I'm packing, as in the last few days. So this is how I started from brain sciences and ended up with painting, basically, which is something that really gives me much more than all the rest. Even if science was very good, for me, it was the best thing I could do at the time. But if I can look back now, and I'm honest with myself, I have to say that this is more stimulating to me. It's frightening. It's even more frightening than being in science, which is a very, very competitive area. But it's really elevating me. It gives me a lot of these aspirations. It gives me a lot, much more than what I had before, that the person I was before, basically. So this is basically why I like it so much. And then there's, you know, the relationship with all the rest of the people, other artists. When I'm very lucky, I go to art fairs, and so I meet people there, art lovers, collectors. Also because this is a very solitary profession, which is something I like usually, because I like my spaces, I like my time. But when I'm with the other people and I'm there face to face, that's amazing. And once I got that, last year was the first time I went to an art fair, you know, exhibiting there. And that was absolutely amazing. It was beautiful. So that's what happened. I think I did some slaloms. I don't know where I started, but anyway.
So what's something that inspires you from your time studying all this, the neuroscience and psychology? What are some things that maybe you could share with the public that you'd like, that you think, you know, other people should know about that time, like from the perspective of a painter now?
Sure. Well, I think there are, I think, two things maybe. The first one is that a lot of things really get sense, get meaning once they are connected, when you can feel the connections between things, between, you know, between words, between images and words, between sounds and images, between tactile information and all the rest. The meaning comes from those connections. And this is something that can be taken for granted in a way, but it is not, because back then I used to study patients with brain damage, and sometimes some of these systems, or these, let's say, sensory channels, let's call them this way for, you know, simplicity, they are broken, and so they cannot anymore process and function as they used to before. And so these aspects were always extremely important for me, and I always felt they are, you know, main channel into understanding in general. And this is why I love to paint, and always to put some kind of some tactile elements in it. Of course, there's the visual element. I can't, not yet, play with odors or maybe other, you know, stimuli, but I'd love to. And the kind of experience that is seeing something that also has a meaning, or can have a meaning, can stimulate memories, can stimulate imagination. It's such a gift in a way. And this is what I feel every time I go into a museum and see beautiful artworks from great masters, or even not great masters, but, you know, that really touch me. And that is amazing. It's something that really allow our brain to function and to maybe awaken. And many times, I don't want to be the one who says, you know, the internet is bad, you know, we are all massified and just, you know, doing things in a very standardized way. But of course, these kind of stimuli, which are not digital in a way, they are so important to trigger new experiences in people. And this is amazing. This is very important to me. And so this is why, as much as I can, at least, I try to put these different aspects into the painting. So not just the color. I mean, I love colors, of course, but not just that. This is the first thing. And I would say that the second one is that we learn again by putting all these things together. Kids do that, and they see things and they touch things, and by doing these two things together, maybe 3, 4, 5 things together, they start creating meanings. And again, this is something I love to play with even now. And to me, it's it really is very, very stimulating. It keeps going on and on because I'm always trying to experiment with new things. And then there's the experiment part, because I used to study from a research point of view, from a researcher point of view. And that thing never went away. I mean, I always try to do that. Sometimes people say that, you have to be consistent, you have to try and maintain a certain line. And I understand that, because of course you can present people things that are totally different from the other. It's okay. It's important to give a line, to have your own voice. Well, you have to build it that before anyway. But it's important to have that consistency. I understand that. But there are moments in which I am really reckless. And those are the moments in which I know that what I am doing is not repeating myself, but, becoming a little more obvious or standardized. And that's when I start to change things. Usually this is very scary, but it's something that I also love very much. So usually I just say, okay, let's do it. And then I start working with new stimuli, new things, and new materials, maybe in many occasions.
Wow.
Now I'm experimenting with paper, for example, while I used sand for a long time. And before that, I used rocks on my paintings, but they were very, very heavy. So I dropped that.
Wow. So you have like this tactile element you're talking about, and then you're discussing this idea of like connecting the meaning between like words and images, and that gives us meaning, is like this connection between two maybe disparate things. Like, how can you discuss a little bit more about that connection that happens in the brain and how we might be able to better understand that process, or how it works, or how we might be able to use that as artists?
Well, I think that I mean, the brain is a big mass of neurons that are actually connected and interconnected one to the other, and they influence each other in streams, actually, in millions actually of them are always working together, and this allow to process very, very abstract things, basically, like the meaning of, everything, from a real object that has his features because it has a certain shape, a certain colors, a certain function, and so on and so forth. From there, you can go to abstract things like, I don't know, philosophy, we were saying before. Okay, so both things are, processed by our brain, well, using different areas, of course, but that interconnection is very, very important to build that meaning and to keep and to keep working on that meaning. And so that's why I think it's very important to not to be scared about, you know, adding maybe things and trying new things, trying new sensory channels sometimes as artists, or to try new materials. And not just because of the technical aspects. Technicalities are important, of course, but it's not just that. It's because we keep adding somehow things to our own process, which is another, you know, stream of meaning in a way, and so our brain keep, you know, processing and dealing with all these different aspects. And to me, at least, this is somehow a reflection of our world, our reality. Things are never very, very easy or straightforward, or they might seem so, but basically they are just a huge amount of information that we put together, and that for some reason they just become, they emerge as something simple, which is amazing when that happens. And but that depends on the work of so many different aspects. And so, yes, I love to put together, you know, stimulate from different channels, let's say so. Sometimes I think maybe I should also, never tried anyway, to exclude some of these channels and see what happens if I don't use some of them. And possibly that would be very interesting in terms of expression. And could be nice. But well, it's, for example, I think it's something that somehow it's a difference between being a painter with respect to being maybe a sculptor, or being a conceptual artist or a performer. You use different parts of your body and of your brain, and this is incredibly enriching. I think is it a word?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're using different parts of your brain when you're doing different, like from the sculpture to the performance art to like the painting. And then so you're really asking here is like, how do you combine them and how do you separate them individually to then focus on different aspects and certain aspects of your brain by like focusing on that, on that meaning making connectivity in those parts of your brain?
Yes, well, I would say that attention plays a very important role there. Again, from a brain science point of view, and this was something I was always pretty good at. I mean, focusing on something. Sometimes when I work, I don't hear anything. Something can happen, and I won't be aware of that. And that helps me a lot. Sometimes I use it. For example, I love to listen to music when I'm painting, and when I, you know, pay attention to this, I know that influences me somehow. For example, it can help me catching certain rhythms in things. I mainly do create abstract paintings, and for me, rhythms and movements somehow are very, very important. And for that, I know that there is a difference when I paint and listening to music and when I paint without music. And that type of music also is pretty, you know, has consequences. So even if I don't do it just because I know about brain science, I know blah, blah, it's something that I really like, basically. It's a useful thing to know. Sometimes you need to change things. It's like, you know, also when you are stuck, something is not working at all, and you know that, and you know that if you keep doing very, very small changes, you won't be happy, and maybe after 10 years you won't be happy about that, and you need to drastically move to something different. Sometimes you just have to shake things, and to be brave in a way, and to do something completely different. Sometimes what I do in order to avoid this kind of, you know, automatisms that we create and that help us usually, I work on 2-3 pieces at the same time. So when I'm stuck with that one, I just leave it there and I work on something different. This is, I think, a lot of people do that. And this is because our brain tend to, you know, simplify things for ourselves. So it's a way to save resources, and but it's not good for art. So it's good to put something different into play, and this usually helps a lot to keep moving on and not be too too standardized.
Not too standardized. So what's happening in this painting behind me?
Well, that one is a painting that I struggled a lot with that one, because it's about, I think it's about rhythms for me. I have to say that one of the things that really inspire me is being outside, outdoor, surrounded by nature, sometimes alone or with very, very few people around. And usually I'm not caught by necessarily by, you know, large landscapes or beautiful sceneries. Usually it's just about little things, maybe small details, maybe less than a centimeter in size, and or so on. And I am just caught by these details, and what I think really strike me and interest me are certain rhythms, visual patterns that I see there. For example, in the case of this painting, it's been inspired by the movement of leaves that I could see on the ground, because there was a shadow cast by the sun on these leaves, and I was there just looking at these shadows that were just moving very, very gently, very slightly, and it was almost if everything was you know, just still. It was summer, and these dark and light patches on the ground was so calming and full of energy at the same time for me, that I took a scrap of paper. I always have scraps of paper in my pocket, and just sketched, you know, a few dark areas and white areas, let's say that. And after that, when I came home, I just tried to put that on the surface. In this case, I think it was plexiglass, because it was during the COVID, so I ran out of canvas. So I started to use other things, whatever I had, and that one was originally a print on plexiglass that I decided to, you know, to cover and to use as the base for this new painting. And the first thing I done after the sketch, I mean, was to use a mix of sand and resin, acrylic resin, that sticks very firmly to the surface. And I put that in it, you know, all the dark areas that you see are the areas in which there's more sand, while the rest is almost without sand. I tend to put it there, use my hands to, let's say, shape it somehow. And then if I'm not happy, I just wash with water part of it. So to create certain, areas which are much more full of texture, and areas that do not have that texture. And when it dried up, I started to work with colors. And at the beginning, this painting, I think it was fuchsia, because I wanted to try with colors that I'm not very comfortable at. But after a while, I decided that it was not the case to continue with that color, and then I switched to browns, and I'm much more comfortable with these colors, basically. And I couldn't find a way to create that kind of idea that I had in my mind with those colors. So I just left that, and I decided to go back to brown, and then I started to add all the whites, and I wanted to give that, try to give that feeling of smoothness, of a change that is somehow graceful from one dark area to the light area. And this is because, for me, being outdoor is very often, it allows me to feel, again, connected with the environment, with the earth, with the air, with rhythms, with light, with everything that really allows me to feel I'm a human being, I guess. I mean, that I am part of something, not not someone who just imposed herself in the world. I don't like imposing myself in anything, basically. And I really enjoy feeling part of, being part of things. And I figured that this was my attempt, that of, putting into the painting some those transitions that allow me, at least, to think that black and white, light and shadow, coarse grained and fine grained things are all connected, that everything is connected, that I am connected to the earth somehow, that I'm connected to the sound that I used, that I'm connected with this world, and that because I am connected to this world, I don't want it to be wasted. And then we go to the political stuff, but it's not the main point, at least that originated this painting, and many other of my paintings, basically. Yeah, more or less. Wow. Well, this one was, again, part of it was, again, inspired by being outdoor. It was a very, where I live, the weather can change very, very quickly. So I went out. It was cloudy. I went in a wood. It started to rain, and I got soaked, and I was wet, and everything was dark, basically. And then this wind that is typical of the area where I live started to blow. And in, let's say, 5 minutes, the sky was cleared again, and there were sunbeams coming through the branches, and these lights were just amazing, and the contrasts were amazing. And I felt so happy and so in the right place and saw me, that I wanted to try and put that into the painting. And so this is how this one came out, basically. So it was all about earth and light, and these two things being part of me, of my memory, and of my visual experience. And that's how it's there.
Now you're talking about light and visual experience and your memory. How do those, if you take that from like a neuroscience like point of view, how would you better explain or explore that those aspects as it relates to that connection and meaning making?
Well, let's say that the neuroscience part, it's interesting, but it comes maybe later. It doesn't come, it's not, it doesn't have any part when I am painting. I think that from the first impressions that I have, maybe when I was into this wood, and I got wet, and then I saw all these lights and etc. That thing was just an emotional and an emotional experience, and something very physical, which is very important to me. And sometimes for me it's like, you know, feeling these things and then maybe moving into this environment, in that environment. It was so great. And those lights, those dark parts were just they were just part of me, and I felt part of that. It's not something that I would explain in other ways. Maybe it's just something, you know, more, I would say, spiritual, but it's not religious, I mean, but somehow it's something that is not so easy to rationalize. And it's good to me not to rationalize everything, at least not at the beginning and not during the painting, maybe later. It's okay. But not during. And so, no, I don't think that neuroscience came into that. And maybe now I can think of other, you know, relationships and things. Of course, you know, certain contrasts are, pretty important visually. So that is something that one as a painter should take into account. But again, it's not something that really affected the way I decided to paint it. It was something that came with another kind of process, I guess.
So outside of the like the rational,
the right part of the brain, I would say it's everything, but you know, the right part did for sure its own job.
It's interesting because it's like you're creating something, and then it's how to take it away from the rational aspect. Maybe it seems like it's completely separate, and while it might be rationalized later, it's not necessarily in the creative process of it, because it comes from like an emotional state and experience, it seems.
Yeah, I think that, you know, at least for me, the rational part is extremely important, but it's not at all. Oh, maybe it has some role, I don't know. But to me, when I paint, when I'm in the process, when I'm, you know, when my hands are dirty, I don't think it's there. I don't know if it's there. It's there in another way, probably. And there are more, let's say, associative processes that happen, and they are very, very much intuitive and primeval in a way. They are related to, you know, being, using different matters, different colors, different lights, different, all these kind of stuff, but in a way that is not I have to do that and I have to do that are other things, and I want that precise outcome in the end. It was not that. It's more something that happens, and while happening, it takes sense and it becomes enriched by sense. And of course, then there are other aspects, but after that, there are other aspects. But while I'm painting, there are much more intuitive things, much more unexplainable things that happen. Not that I'm saying that I just, you know, throw something there and that is intuitive. It's not that. But for sure, it's not a real rational process. Not for me, at least. Not in this moment. My cat.
What's your cat's name?
Spritz. I'm in the region where I come from. Spritz is something you drink. I don't know if it is the same in USA. And yeah, it's because he was very, very, you know, lively when he was when he was small.
What's going on here? Let's go through some of these a little quicker so that we can get through. We're gonna go like we're gonna do like 10-20 seconds per. Like what? Just give us a little taste. What's going on? We're gonna do tasting here.
Yeah. This one was a painting I remade at a certain point. In fact, here I wanted to experiment with metal pigments. Now they cannot be seen very well now from the picture because it's very difficult. I don't know how to take pictures of metal stuff so far, because either it's so shiny that I can't see anything, or it's too dark and it doesn't give any proper you know, justice to the painting. Anyway, I wanted to try with metal stuff, and this is something I really like. I'm still working on that. But this was one of the first attempts, and one of those paintings I wasn't very happy of, and I decided to do something pretty drastic for me, because I didn't know about what could happen, what the result could be. But in the end, I'm happy because there are lights that I like very much.
So it's when you're photographing shiny things, it's about the size of the light compared with the size of the object, and then like the spread and the diffuse and like versus the direct.
Yes,
so
yes.
Diffusion is very important.
I don't have a proper equipment.
Yeah, and then also angles. Angles are very important.
Yeah.
I mean, just like being a photographer.
Wow, I could use some advice then.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, well, photographing paintings is so important. Oh, this one, it's about the misty things, yes. And yeah, I don't like very much watching TV, but there are certain documentaries that I love very much. And I think, watching one from Japan. I've never been in Japan, and perhaps I won't ever be able to go there. And it was about, you know, the old traditional Japan, and there were these beautiful shots of, well, mountains, plenty of clouds, plenty of mist, plenty of everything I love. And so that was part of the inspiration for this painting, and the fact that earth and sky somehow are touching one another, and both are equally important, and there is a music between them. But let's say that. I'm trying to be very, very quick.
Yeah, so here's my quick question here. I don't know if it's so quick, but how would you explain the earth and sky touching to like a neuroscientist?
Oh, So fair. Well, there are visual aspects that come into play when you look at the horizon, and the two parts are very, very close to one another, and there are certain points in which certain situations in which you can't really say which one is that. And that was something that, for example, Leonardo used to work on for a long time, and in a very, incredible way. And that is one thing anyway. It's the, let's say, visual play of certain aspects that create that kind of effect. And then there is, I think, a more abstract relationship between the two that has to do with my idea, at least that is just for me. It's nothing neuroscientist. It's nothing neuroscience anything. And it's about the fact that again, our world is interconnected, and we are interconnected with our world, and that is why we should try and protect it. And so earth and sky are equally important, because the land on which we put our feet and we stand on, and sky where we look up at, are equally important. They are equally essential to our living in this world, basically. And recognizing this maybe can help us to protect it, to feel, that we can play a role. I'm not the kind of person who has maybe the courage, I don't know, of shouting for that. But it doesn't mean that I don't want to say what I think. And for sure, even if my paintings are abstract, basically, I like also to think that they are inspired by me being in my land, in the world, and feeling that I'm part of it. That it's not just mine. It's me and the rest, me and other people, me and that cat, me and the meadows, the clouds, and everything. And we are part of that. We are, to me, is how I have less fear of death, in a way. I'm part of it. I'm part of everything. It's not a religious thing. I'm an atheist, but I think it's something spiritual in a way. And this is, to me at least, it's something that really helps me to, let's say, give a sense to that fear, if it is a fear. Maybe it is not anymore when I think that. I don't know if it is too much. Strange.
Perfect.
But I don't know how I came here. That wasn't planned.
Is any of it really planned?
Excuse me? Say it again?
Oh, is any of it really planned?
No, I don't get it. Sorry.
Oh,
there's something in the... Hello?
Yeah? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Oh, okay. What's going on? What's going on?
In that one?
Yeah.
That one is a piece of one of my paintings. Yes, I see. Okay, that one was, I think, from last year, and it's a slightly different line, let's say, that I love too much to create. It's been it's one of the first pieces that I shown live at an art fair, and it has very great memories for me because of all the people I met there, and it was the first time I could really meet people and talk with people about my works and what they could feel about these works and what they gave they received back, and that was incredible for me because sometimes I used to talk about my stuff, but either it's with people I know, which is important, but it's not enough, or it's on the internet, which is an incredible means, but of course you can't see things in person, and so it's really this really triggers these memories from that period in which it was the first time I felt so happy. I decided to try and and do this, let's say, at least as a semi-profession, and because it gives me so much. It's not just because people maybe like my stuff. It's not just that. It's the possibility to talk with people about something that for me has a meaning and for someone else has maybe another meaning. Doesn't matter, but we can share this process, and we can share the stimuli, and this is so important, at least for me. It created a lot of very precious relationships. This is one of the last ones I have painted over summer, and it was it's one of those paintings that at a certain point I decided to revolutionize. It was very, very blue initially and very, very dark. And then it became very, very gray, and all the dark parts became, let's say, white or whitish somehow. And so it completely reversed with respect to how it was initially. It's again, that happened because I was working on this piece, and I felt pretty confident for a while. Then at a certain point, it didn't sound anymore good, or it didn't really have it didn't convince me. There was something very wrong with it. And so after a while, I decided that I had to to change it completely, which is always something very scary for me, but in the end, I said, okay, I don't want to look at this thing. It doesn't really tell me things, and so I decided to change it, and that was a good thing. Initially, it was a mess because it's a very, for me at least, it's a very large painting, and for my actual studio, I mean. And so when you start changing it, you see, that everything is like, a process of something that doesn't have a real sense. But I felt confident that I could, find some solution to it. And in the end, I'm pretty happy about it. I sent it to Spain for an art fair a month and so ago, but now it's back at home. Oh, this one is from last year. I love this one because it's being one of the first very, very informal paintings that I created. This one doesn't have to do with landscapes or things like that. It was inspired by me being outside, as almost every time, but then it was also very, very much influenced by music. I was, I remember that I was listening to, well, different pieces, mainly classical music in that occasion, but then at a certain point there was also some rock, I think, from the 70s, I guess, or so, and I like the fact that it's sort of a distressed, it's like a distressed wall, which is something that I like very much to see, because well, of all humans, well, humans create beautiful things, and but also time create beautiful things, and that is why I very, very often look at walls, not as, you know, barriers, but just as canvases where the weather and time and decay did their stuff, did their job in a way. And I decided to leave this one, you know, somehow not unfinished, but, you know, with these patches of color that is still almost that almost shows the sand that was the original texture. And I wanted to leave it like that because it has to do, for me at least, it has to do with my idea of time, of how time affects me and how it passes, and how I feel at ease with time sometimes, sometimes not. But again, it has to do with me growing up. So that is why I like that. I called it Dancing in the Eddies, which I think it's taken from a verse of a poem of Neruda, Pablo Neruda. He's a poet from Chile that I love very much, and I think that the title as well has to do, at least for me, with the idea of time and the idea that we are, you know, dancing with something that has its own rhythm and rules, and the best thing is to deal with it and to dance with it.
So I think we've about hit our hour mark or something like that. But I know. I think so. So do you have any words of inspiration that you'd like to share? Any words of wisdom, inspiration that you'd like to share with everybody out there?
Well, I don't know if I have words of wisdom. I think we need courage, I guess. That's the most important thing, at least for me. And painting gave me a lot. It demonstrated me that, with respect to my previous experiences, we can have a lot of courage, even if we are not so, you know, confident of that before. And it helps us to really feel that we are, you know, into our own skin, which is something that is so precious, at least for me. So I don't know if it is something that can, you know, resonate with other people, but at least it resonates to me. I mean, it's really, really important. And in many occasions, it just has to do with not necessarily breaking the rules, but not feeling, not taking ourselves for granted, you know. I think, you know, doing a lot of things is a good thing. Not having necessarily just one own path is a good thing. Sticking to our own path is a good thing. It depends. I mean, it depends on what's really allow us to feel that we are, leading our own life. That's the main thing. And if I feel I am not doing that, then I'm ready to change, even if it is really, really scary. And that's okay. I don't know maybe what the result is going to be, but I think it's important.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So where can everybody find you online?
Well, my Instagram is the main place, even if, in these last few days, I just save a lot of words and just put the pictures because, since I started to this thing of moving, it's really almost impossible to do other things. And I don't also paint a lot, but I will again eventually. And so, yeah, my Instagram. I also have a website that has exactly the same name. So it's easy
Could you
to
spell
find.
that?
Sorry?
Could you spell that for us?
Yes, it's Francesca Borgo .art. So it's FRANCESCBORGO.ART, or altogether without the dot on Instagram.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'm Aaron Jack. You can find me at Aaron Jack Line Art on Instagram, Facebook, etc. So this is the Freedom Tapestry Project. We're here every Thursday with another artist. Every Thursday noon Eastern, 9 a.m. PST, and then all around the world. So whatever that is for you. I'm over at Aaron Jack Line Art every Tuesday. I have 2 artists that I interview in the afternoon Eastern time. So add me, DM me, DM here. Should they DM you? How should people out there interact with you? Should they message you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so DM, send some DMs, make some comments, watch the whole video afterwards. This will be posted, hopefully, assuming all technology works out right.
Absolutely. And of course, thank you, Aaron, and everyone who was in this chat, which has been amazing. Loved it very, very much.
Yes. Thank you to everybody watching. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Samia, for helping create this.
Everyone. Ben and Samia as well. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And everyone who participated.
Yes. I appreciate all the comments. Thank you, Francesca, for joining today.
Thank you, Aaron. You're a perfect host.
Thank you. All right. Till the next time.
Bye. Thank you again.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.